Hi, thank you so much for joining us for Quigley House University this month. My name is Ellissa Jordan. I am the Community Relations Coordinator here at Quigley House, and I am excited to dive into Disability Pride Month, which is July, and give you some tools and information on how to be a better ally to the disabled community and how we can work together to make sure that everybody feels included. And I'm excited to kind of dive into these different topics. So let's go ahead and do that. So when we talk about Disability Pride Month, you may know that March is Disability Awareness Month and Developmental Disability Awareness Month. And that's a little bit different from Disability Pride Month. Disability Pride celebrates disabled individuals embracing their disabilities as an integral part of who they are and reclaiming visibility in public, rejecting shame and internalized ableism. And it's a time for the disabled community to come together, uplift and amplify another's voices and be heard. So when we talk about Disability Pride, we want to improve how we can be allies to our disabled friends, family members, community members. And doing this is understanding kind of what Disability Pride looks like. So we do have our Disability Pride flag here. And this was a collaborative design effort by Anne McGill, a disabled woman, and she encompassed feedback within the disabled community to refine its visual elements. Previously, the disability awareness or Disability Pride flag has shifted from a lightning bolt version that kind of caused a strobe flicker effect to this a little bit like muted version that all encompass the different aspects of Disability Pride. So when we talk about the different kind of elements within the flag, we see the black field. This is a color of mourning and rage for those who are victims of ableist violence, rebellion, protest. We see the 5 colors that kind of work across. These encompass a variety of needs and experiences. So these represent invisible and undiagnosed disabilities, physical disabilities, neurodivergence, psychiatric disabilities, and sensory disabilities. We see that the stripes are parallel. This represents solidarity within the disability community and embraces the diversity of it. And then the diagonal band cutting across barriers that separate disabled individuals, and creativity and light kind of cutting through the darkness. When we talk about disability, we recognize that disability impacts everybody. 1 in 4 adults in the United States are affected by disability. This includes people with disabilities in everyday activities and we work to create accessible environments and equitable opportunities that support them in their roles similar to their peers who do not have disability. This is diversity inclusion. We want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to live life to its fullest. And so as we can see this kind of map breakdown, there's different types of percentages regarding specific disability types. And this information was pulled from the CDC. So they have really good information on the breakdown of those different types of disabilities. And so in case you were unaware, Quigley House is the only domestic violence and sexual assault center in Clay County. We are focused on providing services to everybody regardless of their race, age, gender or identity, sexual orientation, ability, nationality, all of the things. And we want to make sure that everybody gets the assistance they need to escape a domestic violence or sexual assault experience. And we make it a point to educate our community about these different avenues. So when we talk about disability, we definitely want to touch on disability and domestic violence. So when it comes to domestic violence, people with disabilities have a higher lifetime prevalence of experiencing abuse than other people without disabilities. And this doesn't necessarily just mean from an intimate partner. This could mean a family member, and any other person that they kind of have in their all-encompassing zone. So people with disabilities experience violent crime at twice the rate of people without disabilities. Somebody with disabilities is 3 times more likely to be sexually assaulted as their peers without disabilities. And in 2008, intimate partners perpetrated 27% of violent crime against women with disabilities and 1.1% of crime against men with disabilities. Police are less likely to respond to reported violence against victims with disabilities than they are reported violence against victims without disabilities. So police respond to about 90% of reports by victims without disabilities and 77% of reports by victims with disabilities. So this is where we kind of step in to help train, work with other community partners to educate law enforcement, to educate different organizations. So when they are encountering people with disability who are experiencing abuse, they are addressing it in a way that we can get them to a safe place and make sure that their needs are taken care of. And this information, the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence has a really good breakdown of different statistics, resources, and other information on how to support somebody who is disabled going through domestic violence. So I would 100% recommend that you visit NCADV's website. And then we also want to touch on sexual violence and disability. So someone who needs regular assistance may rely on a person who is abusing them for care. A common factor, this is a common factor in elder abuse as well. The perpetrator may use this power to threaten, coerce, or force someone into non-consensual sex or sexual activities. And for many people with disabilities, they may not understand healthy sexuality and types of touching that are appropriate and inappropriate. This can be especially difficult if a person's disability requires them to provide physical contact care, but also if they have some sort of a developmental disability or something of that nature. That's why we want to be on the lookout, especially if you are a caregiver, that we are making sure that the person who you're caregiving is safe at all times. And an abuser, and this could factor into sexual violence or physical violence, or even just domestic violence in general. An abuser in a situation like this may take away access to tools a person uses with disability to communicate, such as a computer or phone. And also they may remove medications. They may, not drive them anywhere. If they're the person who is providing all these things, getting the medications from the pharmacy, taking them to appointments, they may stop providing that thing to hold power over that individual. And people with disabilities may be less likely to be taken seriously when they make a report of sexual assault or abuse. They also face additional challenges in accessing those services to make a report. If that person is the one who's doing all those things with them, then that's the only person they come in contact with. It's very, very difficult to obviously gauge that in a timely manner. So that's why it's important for social workers or caseworkers or other individuals who kind of are involved in their life, if they get like Medicare or something like that, and they have a caseworker that way, to kind of be hyper vigilant about making sure that they're getting the information and the things that they need. So when we talk about disability pride or disability awareness, we also want to talk about ableism. So ableism is a discrimination against disability. So at its core, ableism is the assumption that typical abilities are superior to disabilities, and the harmful stereotypes, misconceptions, and generalizations that follow. So there are 3 different kinds of categories of ableism, and I just want to give you a couple examples from each. And so when we talk about environment, this may be a lack of signage or navigational aids for various physical, cognitive, or sensory disabilities. It may be storefronts or curbs without accessible entryways, poorly designed or constructed adaptions, event venues without quiet rooms, sensory rooms for staff and attendees, websites without easy to read fonts or color schemes, described audio, closed captions, or described images relying on auto-generated captions versus hiring transcriptions. And so those are some environmental factors that kind of play into ableism that regular individuals without disability don't typically think about on a day-to-day basis, but we know that that is a very real barrier that individuals with disability do face. And that is a goal, obviously that's purpose of the ADA, to make sure that those regulations and things are in place to make sure everything is accessible to everybody who needs it. We talk about language. So that could be correcting a disabled person for their own identity terms and labels, using labels or using language such as turn a blind eye, tone deaf, that's lame, things like that. They're just very derogatory kind of phrases that diminish a disabled person's life. Telling somebody, but you don't look disabled, or kind of backhanded compliments that kind of frame positivity in spite of the disability. So you're so blank for a disabled person. Using a disabled dependent, relative, or friend's experience to position yourself in disability discourse. So as a parent of a disabled person, I believe this, this, and this, but your child's experience, your experience is not my experience. And asking invasive medical questions about medical history, not believing somebody when they say they're disabled. And this also kind of rolls into societal attitudes and behaviors towards disabled individuals. So skepticism that listening to an audiobook is not reading compared to a physical book, stigmatizing movie tropes about disabilities. So when a disabled character is written off for various reasons related, to rejecting treatment or stuff like that. Movies portraying disabled characters with non-disabled actors, lack of sensitivity readers, perceiving a lack of eye contact or not listening as not listening or disrespectful. Only addressing people through verbal communication or viewing that as the only way to communicate instead of adapting to a situation, and asking somebody what their preferred communication method is, and not believing in their disability or downplaying the negative outcomes of mishandling one's health and body, from brain injuries to even food allergies. These are all factors that kind of play into people who utilize an ableist mindset. And these are things that we, as allies, try to address to kind of check ourselves and our personal biases when it comes to disability, and how we handle people with disabilities. This is not the way that we can move forward together as a community to make sure that people feel valued and seen and heard. So how we work together to make sure that things are inclusive to everybody. So disability pride has been described as accepting and honoring each person's uniqueness and seeing it as a natural and beautiful part of human diversity. Disability inclusion means understanding the relationship between the way people function, how they can participate in society, and ensuring everyone has equal opportunities to participate in all aspects of life to the best of their abilities and desires. So that means we work to identify barriers that potentially impact people with disabilities, to live independently and fully engaged in their communities. And it's each community member's responsibility to make a difference and kind of play a part in addressing those barriers, whether you're a business owner or a community member or somebody on town council. It's thinking about like, oh, we're building a new parking structure. Let's make sure that we have an elevator, or we have signs in Braille as well, things like that, or partnering with other agencies that do work with disabled people on the daily and saying, hey, what are some barriers that you have noticed in our community that you've had to help people overcome? How can we work together to make sure that these are no longer issues? So how can you be an ally? How can I be an ally? So ally, when we spell it out, we want to acknowledge and respect individual experiences and abilities. We want to learn about different disability types, leverage your influence to promote accessibility and inclusion, and yield the floor to people with disabilities to help identify and eliminate barriers. Other ways that you can definitely be an ally are believe people when they disclose a disability. Take disability into consideration when you're planning an event or gathering. Talk about disability with your children in a neutral stance. So this, like, if they're a wheelchair user, not something awful must have happened, like say, oh, maybe they just need a little bit more help getting around, or something that's definitely not negative. It's not super positive. It's just very matter of fact, like this person is made that way, and that's okay. Explore the policies and practices of workplace and accessibility. And when we talk about different historical ways that have shaped the disability pride movement, the ADA has played a huge role in making things possible for people with disabilities, making sure that transportation, businesses, communities have accessible things for people with disabilities. And the most important thing when we talk about disability pride and being an ally is believe, listen, and learn. Asking questions is never a negative, but if you're asking a question for someone to make them reveal information that they're not comfortable with revealing, you're doing it just to appease yourself. These are not positive interactions with people who are different than you. We want to make sure that anything, when we're addressing people who are different than us in any capacity, and we have questions about maybe their experiences, their barriers, things like that, we tread lightly and respectfully. Disability pride, just like any other type of Pride Month or experience that kind of shapes how we kind of navigate life, can be exhausting. And disability pride can be an exhausting period for people with disabilities, whether or not they speak or advocate publicly. But these are things that they have to address and deal with every day of their lives. And so they might not want to answer your questions, and that is okay. So do research, talk to community partners that provide services, ask how you can help, maybe by volunteering or donating or things like that, to make sure that we are being allies in that field. And when we talk about Clay County and we talk about some resources, here are some awesome resources in our community that do work with people with different disabilities and, kind of help kind of navigate those things, whether it is applying for benefits or helping navigate job services or things like that. So we have BASCA. So BASCA focuses on helping individuals with intellectual and developmental differences achieve a higher quality of life and sense of belonging. Their phone number is on the screen. We have Challenge Enterprises. So they assist individuals with intellectual, physical, or developmental disabilities. And they have really awesome programs where they, assist with providing jobs, different life skills, to people with disabilities, so that way they can live a very full independent life. We have the Center for Independent Living. Like they help do case management and achieve independent living goals and community-based programs. A lot of those things are self-directed. And then we have the Florida Department of Health that does have specific disability programs when it comes to making sure that their physical and mental health is taken care of, and promotes, disease prevention, wellness, and disaster preparedness. So these are all really great resources in Clay County that do assist people with disabilities. And then again, my name is Ellissa Jordan, and I am the Community Relations Coordinator. Here is my contact information on the screen. If you have any questions, if you have any feedback on our presentation, maybe your experiences working with people with disabilities, how we can, as an agency, make sure that our services are inclusive and addressing different issues. We would love to hear from you. I would love to hear your experiences. And we always want to learn and be better. And I am definitely excited to be a part of this this movement and to be an ally to people in the disability community. And we have our 24-hour crisis helpline that helps people of any nationality, ability, religion, sexual orientation. If you have experienced abuse or sexual violence, we encourage you to call our 24-hour crisis helpline at 904-284-0061. We have trained advocates on standby 24 hours a day to answer questions, provide information and referrals, provide resources in the community. If for some reason we are unable to help, we can always give you some numbers to call and places to reach out to that may be better suited to assist your needs. But thank you so much for joining us today for Quigley House University. If you are interested in different speakers or anything, you can always reach out to us and we can put something on the schedule. But thank you so much for listening, and I hope that you have a great rest of your day. Thank you.